There you are. How are you?
Hey, great. Thanks, Bradley. How you doing?
Doing fine, Craig. So thank you for being part of Digital Book World with us. We appreciate you. So this will be a conversation between you and me, just like this. Why don't we start with just telling us who you are, who you're with, what you do.
Sure. Well, I've first of all, thanks for having us back this year, and for the program today. I've been following all the sessions throughout the day with great interest. Congratulations for running on time. We're very close to time, which is a remarkable achievement for any conference. But as you said in your opening, I'm one of the founders of ReaderBound, which is a team that is focused on building customized websites for book publishers. And so our perspective is very much on the importance of a publishing house having a really well-built and fully featured web platform to showcase their catalog and reach out to readers and to other key audiences.
Excellent. Yeah. So, I'm going to stick to the outline we had before. I think it's great. The question is, who can use your technology? So basically, can anybody, like Orion Razat, who we met earlier today, a 10-year-old who produced his own book, who can use ReaderBound to create a website and sell direct to consumer, and who can't?
Yeah. So ReaderBound is really for publishing houses of any size that want to have a fully featured web platform for their catalog. Really, we see all sorts of publishers coming into this space. So trade publishers, scholarly presses, children's publishers. But typically for us, these are publishers which would be understood to be sort of mid-sized presses, independent presses, or larger scholarly presses or private publishers that typically have catalogs of anywhere from 500-600 books up into the several thousand ISBNs within their catalog. And really what they're doing is they're looking for an effective platform to showcase those catalogs online, to boost the discoverability of their books, but also to have options to sell directly to readers. And really that's the thing that I think we wanted to key on today was just that aspect of the direct-to-consumer sales channel. And there's a question for some publishers about whether or not that's a real thing. Like, can they expect readers to come and buy books from them as opposed to going to Amazon or to other large retailers to get those books? And the answer that we have to that is absolutely they can. That this is as I said at the outset, publisher's website has to do a number of important jobs. It has to showcase the catalog. It has to promote engagement with readers and with other audiences. But it's very clear that direct-to-consumer sales channel is a really legitimate channel for most publishers. In fact, it's more clear than ever this year. And we're seeing a lot of really that there's some really pleasant surprises in this space that, it's in itself, it's a valuable revenue stream for many publishers. A number of our client presses that were already very active in terms of direct sales saw big sales spikes this year during the lockdown. I mean, on the order of sort of 400 or 500% compared to the same period last year. Of course, bookstores, bricks and mortar stores were closed for an extended period. And or more difficult for people to get out and get those books to the normal channels. And so we saw a lot of that buying activity, even more so driving into the online channel, and including people buying direct from publishers. But the other pleasant surprise in this for us is that this isn't just a front list thing. There's an excellent way to boost backlist sales. We see a number of our client presses doing sort of targeted sales, targeted promotions that are designed to drive some of that backlist activity. There's a really organic aspect to it too, that readers are just encountering those books in a wonderful way on the publisher sites. And we're seeing a lot of buying activity like across the catalog. I had a really great email from one of our client presses a couple of days ago, and somebody had just bought an entire poetry series during a weekend sale that they were running. It was like 8 or 10 books from this series. But this is pretty deep backlist for those titles, and it's always, it's always fun to see those books go out the door.
Yeah, no, there's a word for that. It's called found money.
Yeah, yeah.
What are the most important things that a publisher needs to do to be able to sell direct to consumer?
Uh, yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, on the first and foremost, I think it's you make it pleasant, you make it easy for people to buy books directly from you, you make it fun for them to do so. You know, I mean, I think the very large players in our industry have really effectively set customer expectations in terms of what that buying experience is going to be like. I mean, Amazon one-click ordering is an obvious example of that. And so a publisher website really needs to step up to that standard, you know, at some level. And we run into examples all the time where you know, a publisher site can be really far from that. You know, like we had a couple of just conversations last week where there was one press whose shopping cart on their site had completely failed, and so they're actually unable to take orders right now during what is a pretty important period for those sales. And then we had another case last week where someone's working with a site where their current system doesn't allow them to do any kind of price discounting or sales promotions of any sort. And so, of course, the press wants to be able to do that. And they so when they do it, they have customers, you know, email their orders in and, you know, phone in the credit card numbers and things like that. And it just creates more friction. It's more difficult for the customer. It seems it erodes confidence in the buying process for them in some respects. And so, you know, these are, you know, obviously these are publishers that are only too well aware that there's some opportunities that they're missing there, and they're working hard now to put better systems in place. But the lesson in all of that is that the easier you make it and the more pleasant you make it for people to buy directly from you, then the more likely they are to do so, you know. And the good news there is that there are tools and systems that are available to all publishers these days that bring that kind of standard more readily within reach than it would have been, you know, even just a few years ago. So making it easy for the customer, I think, is thing number one. Thing number two, perhaps, is make it real easy for your staff as well. You know, like, I mean, everybody that works on ReaderBound comes from the publishing industry. We've all worked in publishing. And we're all too well aware that there's no publishing team in the country with free time, you know, in any country with free time. And so, you know, the trick there is to make these sites easy to operate. If you're running direct sales, make it easy for your staff to put those sales promotions in place, to manage sales, you know, integrate with your distributor so that, you know, the picking and the shipping of orders you can hand off to somebody else even, you know. So the more that you can make it easy for your staff to operate that kind of sales program, the more efficient it is. It leads to more experimentation and new ideas and the publishing team trying different things. We see a lot of that activity among our clients, and it's really exciting. We're all learning from each other quite a bit about how these sales work, and what types of things can be effective. And so that's, you know, make it easy for the customer, make it easy for your staff as well. And the last thing I would highlight in terms of just kind of getting the basics right is never, as a publisher, never stop improving the biblio data that you're putting into your site. Best practice is that the title listings on the website are fed directly from the publisher's Onyx repository. And so as you continue to strengthen the quality and depth of bibliographic data that you're sharing about your books across the supply chain, make sure that that's being well reflected on your own website as well. And we see a lot of evidence that the more rich the description is of the book on the website, the more additional detail and supporting content that is there, that video of the author interview, of course, a sample chapter or some other excerpt, you know, review excerpts, awards information, all that kind of rich detail that can accompany the title listing is really important to driving sales activity, but just driving reader engagement as well. I mean, the sales piece is only really one part of this. Part of what we're talking about when we talk about sales is just that direct engagement that you have with the reader. And you know, someone is putting their hand up and saying, I'm interested in what you're doing. I'm interested in your books and your authors. And that's a wonderful opportunity for any publishing house, you know, to be able to reach those audiences effectively through social media, through email channels, and to be able to offer them new and interesting things is it's a really, it's more than just a sales transaction. You're getting into a different kind of engagement and relationship with your audiences.
No, I think that's well said, and I can speak just from my own experience. Not everybody knows that I put the program together for Digital BookWorld myself. So I do it myself. I love doing it. It's not a burden. I enjoy doing it. I liken it to a head coach who continues to call their own plays, despite being a head coach and not an offensive coordinator anymore. And I will tell you that, the ways we keep our eyes peeled, and we might see an article about somebody did something. We might see a tweet from somebody who, I follow or whatever, and that could lead us down the rabbit hole. But where that rabbit hole leads is inevitably to the website, the publisher. And there have been times where, maybe there's a couple of people I could ask to talk about something, and you look at one website and it looks like it's GeoCities era. I'm dating myself here. Something out of GeoCities, or it's just not representative of what I had just seen about that entity. And then there's been times where the website just took it even further and just validated everything I just saw. And so from the standpoint of appearances and conferences, one day we'll get back to meeting in person again. But even now, virtual events, that's what we got. It plays a role there too. So I just feel like throwing that in there, because it's not just all about sales, it's about your whole image.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, that is really rings true, I think, for all of us. It's part, I mean, you hear about somebody new or a new company or service. The first thing you do is go and check out their website, and it either fits with those expectations or impressions that you have, or it doesn't. And I mean, that's what I meant earlier about, the showcasing what the publisher is doing on their own website. I mean, the sales piece is one thing, but I mean, most publishers have several different types of audiences that they're trying to engage. Obviously readers, but also authors, current and aspiring and prospective authors, huge audience for most presses. Librarians, educators, scholars, if you're in a scholarly space. And we're seeing some really, wonderful, I think of them as experiments, but just really, innovative strategies that publishers are advancing on their own sites to really reach and engage those audiences in a meaningful way. We have publishers that are, in line with some of your program content today, that are doing really cool things with podcasts and just, new forms altogether, new business models, but new ways of just reaching out to bring content to their readers, as we were just hearing about from the Cambridge University Press before, in the session immediately before. And I think that's, to us, that's the baseline for that is that you've got a good functioning, fully featured website that can allow you to do all of those things. It's just such a tremendous jumping off point for all of those strategies.
So last question for you. If you got the basics right, what in your experience what makes for a successful direct-to-consumer campaign?
Yeah. Well, it's, I think the book is still being written on that question in a way. Like, as I say, we're when you think about how book marketing works, like, I mean, historically, most book marketing, I think about trade publishing in particular, has been concerned with not so much with direct-to-consumer efforts, but with more like a business-to-business kind of marketing effort, right? You're selling your books into bookstores. You're pitching your books to media for review coverage. That's been where a lot of the marketing effort in book publishing has been historically. Through social media, through more efficient use of email channels, publishers are making more space, certainly, for direct-to-consumer marketing than has been the case in the past. And I think it's fair to say that we are very much at a phase in the industry and the progress of the industry where we're all learning a lot from each other about how to do that type of book sales and marketing activity. But I think we have learned some things for sure. about to this point about how to do this effectively. And the first thing I would highlight is the importance of having a sales effort, a direct-to-consumer sales effort that is relevant to your publishing program and to the audiences that you're trying to reach. You know, and everybody will have a slightly different answer to that question in that respect. It's a, you know, this is true of any kind of book marketing, is that, you know, the best strategies have relevance to the nature of your publishing program and the types of audiences that you're trying to engage with. And this is true for direct sales as well. One of our clients, for example, publishes entirely drama. They have a fantastic catalog of drama titles. And they're mainly concerned with selling into university and college theater programs, community theater groups, trade channels, of course, but they have a heavy emphasis on some of those specialized channels. And so we've engineered their site so that it can support very nicely the creation of course packs, course bundles, which can then in turn be sold on to departments or individual students at those institutions. And that's been just a fantastic thing to watch it take shape. It's really opened up a whole new arena for them in terms of how they can present their catalog and package it for those really important audiences. So relevance, and the answer in terms of what's relevant and what isn't, really most often comes from the nature of the publishing program itself. I mentioned social and email earlier. I mean, I think that's another key. You know, most publishers have certainly put more and more emphasis on those channels the last number of years, and there's some ready reach, some ready audience reach built in there. You know, if you have a sales offer or a fun promotion that you're running as a publishing house, you can get the word out nicely through those channels. And really amplify that message with, you know, those are free to use channels, free or very cheap promotion, obviously, in those spaces. And most of the success stories that we've seen this year have been heavily driven by social and email promotion that really put that offer in front of readers in a way that it could in turn be readily shared out across social networks and so on. So certainly social and email, huge. For most types of publishers, event promotions, still a huge thing. And that's obviously a big challenge this year. You know, here we are today in a virtual digital book world. All events are moving online. You know, I think about some of our scholarly clients in particular, scholarly press clients, that for whom academic conferences, you know, major academic congress or conferences concerned with individual scholarly disciplines are hugely important to their sales and marketing effort through the year, both for sales at those events and for course adoptions. And so leveraging that event promotion in your direct channel sales effort, really, really huge. You know, special coupon codes for event attendees so that they can trigger different sales offers on your site. You know, you can extend the kind of sales promotion that you would do at that event beyond the immediate audience of the event and take it out a little bit more widely just by blowing it out on your website in that way. So leveraging event promotions and through you know, a compelling sales offer on the site is a really a great way to get some more value out of events, whether they're in person or whether they're online. You know, and I think otherwise, the other thing that we're noticing is that publishers are very adept at switching up offers and keeping it fresh. You know, always having something new to offer to readers. And I think that's another huge factor. You know, I was talking to one press the other day who had sort of mapped out their campaign strategy for the, you know, a 14 to 16 week window. And every week, couple of weeks, they would switch it up. They'd focus on a different category or a different aspect of their list, or they'd create a different offer, but it was all laid out in advance and they could see it coming. And they were in this tight, you know, week, 2 week cycle where they always had something fresh to offer to readers. And this comes back to what I was saying earlier about, you know, if you're going to run a program like this, make it easy for your team to run it, you know, and that was a clear-cut case where the publishing team in that case, you know, had a really clear vision for what they wanted to accomplish. They had it all mapped out, and it was easy for them to roll these promotions in one after the other And for the readers that they were reaching, it was really nice. It was a really, like, you know, they were always seeing something new. They were always seeing something, you know, that could attract their attention, that they could engage with. And the results speak for themselves. I mean, these sales promotions, time and time again, exceed our expectations. And I think, you know, you're offering value to readers. You know, you're engaging with them directly. You're getting into a situation where you more own that reader relationship. And you know, the rewards in terms of the sales volume and what it means to the long-term prospects for the publishing program really speak for themselves.
Greg, we appreciate you being part of Digital Book World with us. Y'all have built such a nice and interesting business with ReaderBound. It's a pleasure to have you be part of DBW Global. Thank you for taking the time.
Hey, thanks a lot, Bradley. Wouldn't miss it.
You got it. Thank you very much. I'm going to put you back as attendee.